The We Are Wakefield podcast is brought to you in partnership with Podmatic. So welcome to the We Are Wakefield podcast. We've got Simon Lightwood MP for Wakefield and Rothwell here with us today. So thank you so much for coming and giving us your time today. We have been putting the call out there for our members to submit questions to you. So we've got some really good questions, I think, to cover. But first of all, I'd like to know a little bit about you.
Okay.
Who is Simon Lightwood, the man behind the MP, if you like? So just tell us a little bit about you and your background and who you are.
Okay, well, I was, as you can probably tell from the accent, I was originally born in South Shields in the northeast of England, and I moved to Wakefield in 1999,
right?
Because I studied at Bretton Hall College.
Oh, okay.
It's now part of the Yorkshire Sculpture Park.
Yes, yeah.
I did my theatre acting degree there.
Really?
So I went from training to be an actor to going into politics. Now, some people would say there's a link there, but
definitely. I'm sure you've got transferable skills there.
Communication skills. But I'd always come to Wakefield because I have family in Horbury.
Okay.
So I've always had a relationship with Wakefield before that. But once I'd finished my degree, I never went back to the northeast. So I spent the next 10 years living in Wakefield. I bought my first house in Wakefield, passed my driving test in Wakefield, met my husband in Wakefield.
Yeah.
And so I've got a lot to thank this area for. I think it opened my eyes to a whole host of opportunities I'd never really considered before.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm so proud now to be the MP and representing this fantastic place.
So how did that come about then? Where did your passion for politics come from? From a theatrical background then? How did that route happen?
Look, I think there's a couple of things to mention there. Look, when I was growing up in the northeast during a previous recession, we lost our house.
Right.
And it was a really difficult time. So we moved in with my nana, my gran. We're there for 2 years. So there was about 10 of us in a 2-bedroomed house for 2 years.
How old were you then?
Gosh, I guess I was second year of junior school, so teenager years.
Right.
So I shared a bedroom with my nana, my auntie, and my sister for 2 years.
Right, okay.
And we struggled. We struggled. It was a really difficult time financially, but I think that just gave me the appetite of wanting to make sure that we look after people. And my incentive to get involved in politics was, look, you can sit back and you can moan about how things aren't right. Or
and
frankly,
a lot of us do that.
Yeah, we do.
And
it's
a natural thing to do, isn't it?
I thought, you know what? Enough moaning about it. Roll up your sleeves and do something about it. And that's why I got involved with politics in the first place.
And do you feel fulfilled in that, in what you're doing? Because I know that, it can be frustrating if you're wanting to make changes and sometimes they don't happen fast enough. I mean, obviously you've been an MP for how long now?
Got 3 years. 3 years last week.
Right, yeah. Okay. So you've not had that long to wait then before being in government, I suppose. Yeah. So some MPs go many years without actually having that opportunity. So do you feel that you are in a position now where you can make things happen and you can make change?
So right from the outset of being elected as the MP for Wakefield and then re-elected as the MP for Wakefield and Rothwell, that we've helped 20,000 people.
Right.
Which I'm incredibly proud of. I've got a fantastic team. And that's helping people with a really wide variety of problems, from housing to benefits to you name it. We've helped people with that. So each and every day we're helping people with those smaller problems. They're not small to them. And then now I'm really, really thrilled to be a member of the government. I'm a transport minister now. And all those things that we criticised the previous government for, now we're able to make changes. So we know in Wakefield that our buses are in a really difficult position. Now I'm leading through Parliament now the bus services bill, which is really, allowing local areas to take back control of their buses. We know here more than most how bad buses can be and how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the main concerns, I think, as a district that we've got, the poor transport links across the district, when you can get on a train to London in 2 hours, but you can't get public transport across the district, you know, in that time at all. It takes you much longer than that to move around our district on what's available. So are we going to see some improvements in that?
Yeah, I mean, Tracy Brabin, the Mayor of West Yorkshire, has already grabbed those reins and she's already committed to introducing franchising. So that's where the Mayor takes back control of the buses. She sets the terms. She decides where they go, when they go, how often they go, and how much they charge, rather than, because almost nowhere else in the developed world allows these private operators, bus operators, to decide everything themselves. And we know it's so important, you know, getting people to those well-paid jobs, getting people to education, to healthcare, tackling social isolation, you know, allowing people to see their loved ones. Buses are the most popular form of transport. I think by really getting a grip of that, and I think we can start to make a real difference.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about improving people's lives and making a difference. So we'll get onto some questions then from our members. So they never disappoint. They've stepped up and sent in some really good questions, actually. So we'll go through them. So the first one's from Wayne Mitchell from Complete Care, West Yorkshire. So obviously a really tough sector to be part of at the moment, the social care industry, a lot of challenges. So his question is, given the disproportionate rise in employer national insurance contributions under the new Labour Party government, an overinflated increase that's placed unsustainable pressure on small and medium-sized companies, how on earth can you possibly claim to support local business when your party's actions are actively undermining their ability to recruit, grow, or even stay afloat?
Look, I think first and foremost, I think it's important to point out, and you know, people now roll their eyes at me at times when I say this, but the facts of the matter are, when he came into government, there was a £22 billion black hole in year right now. And we came into government with a promise to be more transparent, to be more honest about our public finances, to restore trust in our finances. And so it was, of course, a really difficult decision. Look, I get it. You know, raising national insurance contributions wasn't an easy move. I understand that it's added pressure to businesses, particularly small businesses who are just trying to get along. I think that's why we brought in some additional support. We've bumped up the employment allowance from £5,000 to £10,500. So what does that mean? Well, that means 865,000 employers would pay any national insurance contributions this year, and more than half of businesses won't see any change in what they contribute. And there's more help on the way from April this year. If you're a smaller business, you'll be able to pay up to 4 staff the national living wage without having to pay national insurance contributions. And there continues to be that relief for under 21s and apprentices under 25. That's all sticking around as well. So look, I know times are tough, but I think we're doing what we can in order to ease the pressure.
I think businesses are just feeling as if they're taking the brunt of, you know, filling that black hole that you've talked about. It seems as if, you know, you're trying to encourage growth, but the businesses are taking the hit. They're taking the impact of this. And certainly with the businesses that I deal with through We Are Wakefield, mainly SMEs, confidence is really low at the moment, and people are really feeling the pressure. I mean, we've got another similar question about that coming up later, so we'll come back to this. We'll move on to the next question, which is from manufacturing industry. So Helen McDonald from Solupac. What specific policies are you supporting or proposing to help manufacturing businesses and SMEs in Wakefield and Rothwell thrive post-pandemic and post-Brexit?
First of all, going back to, obviously the government is doubling the employment allowance to £10,500, which you mentioned. That's more money staying in people's businesses. It's not going out in taxes. I think that's a real boost, I think, from SMEs. We're also keeping some key tax reliefs, like the small profits rate, the marginal relief, and the £1 million annual investment allowance. So if you are investing in your business, then that support is sticking around. There's the small business rates multiplier. That's also been frozen for 25-26. And that means over 1 million properties won't see their business rates go up because of inflation. And there's also £250 million going into the British Business Bank. Now, this is to help firms grow, exactly what we're just talking about there, and growth hubs. They're staying funded too, so support's still there when you need it. And for those energy intensive industries as well, which I'm sure some of your members
the
are.
manufacturers particularly.
Yeah, it can be really, really tough. So there's a new scheme coming in that will cut electricity bills by 25%.
Right.
And that's a pretty significant contribution, because I get some of those really energy intensive businesses have really struggled, and that could offer huge relief, and that's expected to protect something like 300,000 skilled jobs.
Right.
So there's a whole range of measures going in there to try and ease the burden on small businesses.
And do you think that will restore confidence?
Well, I think it's a matter of time. There's a number of different stages there. Look, the key thing I would say to businesses and constituents as well is be as patient as you can. I absolutely get it, and the government is, and I get that.
It's difficult to be patient.
Oh yeah,
when you're spinning plates, and you've got HMRC to pay, and
absolutely.
And we haven't
held back putting these measures in place. But we also have to remember, as a new government, not even a year in, after 14 years of the previous government, there's a lot of change to make in order to improve the country for the better. There's going to be no quick fixes.
But that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, when you're saying be patient, but you haven't always got time on your side in a business. The end can come like that. I've been there, Simon. I've been in a business that ran for over 20 years. And I mean, we're going back to 2019 now, so it's not something that's happening right at the moment. But I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was, like I said, spinning plates financially. In that, you're trying to get payments in, which is something else we'll come on to later. Yeah. But time's not always on your side. The end can come like that.
No, that's why all these measures have already been put in, and we'll continue looking at what support we can put in place for. And we'll talk about a few of those extra bits later on.
Absolutely, because like I said, time is of the essence for businesses. They don't have time to sit around and wait for things to come in that are going to support them. They need the support now.
Exactly.
So next question is from Sarah Knight from JS Recruitment. As a recruitment agency specialising in permanent staffing, we've seen a clear drop in hiring confidence among clients due to rising national insurance contributions and increases to the national living wage. This policy shift has had a detrimental impact on our ability to place candidates and grow our business. What action will you take to support agencies like ours and restore confidence among local employers in Wakefield?
So I know businesses really just want a bit of certainty, a little bit of certainty, so they can start plan ahead, like you said, and whether that's hiring more people or growing their operations. And I think there's some good news on that front. The Office of Budget Responsibility recently published their economic and fiscal outlook. They do that after things like the budget in October and the spring statement. And what it does show is that because of the government measures, they are expecting to see growth in employment. So that's going from 33.6 million up to 33.6 up to 34.8 by 2029. So that's a pretty solid increase. On top of that, we'll touch on the Employment Rights Bill as well. I think that's set to be a win-win. I know there's some apprehensions out there. We'll talk about that a bit more.
That will take some convincing.
Yeah, no, look, it's not just about supporting workers, but I think it's great for employers as well. In terms of better staff retention, and that means fewer recruitment headaches as well, lower training costs, less disruption generally to teams, and that's especially important, as I'm sure you'll agree, for SMEs, where every single member of your team counts. So I think when you look at everything that the government has done over the last year, I hope that your members are more reassured that we're trying to give businesses the confidence to go for it, to invest and to grow.
Okay. So speaking of the Employee Rights Bill, so this is from Tracy Carpenter, Mint HR, so an HR professional advising businesses on employee rights on a daily basis, and I'm sure she's been very busy lately keeping up to speed with all the changes. So how do you respond to small employers and big who feel that the Employment Rights Bill is making it even more challenging to employ and is all in the employee's favour?
Well, what I'd say is, look, since taking office last year, the government has been focused on a whole new approach to employment that supports both businesses and workers. The new Employment Rights Bill is a key part of that, and that's designed to help employers to make it easier to keep good people in their jobs. That means
did we need that help? Did we need to make it easier to keep good people? Did we need the government to do that for us?
I think it's clear from workers that actually they want that extra security. People feel insecure in employment, and that shouldn't be the case. So giving confidence to employees to know that they're in a stable position makes them more confident, makes it more likely that they'll stick around. Because I know the expense of having to train somebody and get them up to speed, particularly in small and medium enterprises, that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and often a lot of money, especially, as I said, for small businesses. And we're also, I think, importantly, building a stronger partnership between trade unions, employers and government to encourage that cooperation that I think was sadly lacking under the previous administration.
The fear that businesses have got here, though, is that their rights are being taken away. We're under no illusion that not every employee is going to be that great employee that you want to keep. So there are times when that relationship has to end, and employers feel that those rights are being taken away. They're almost being shackled to someone who they may not want to keep in their team.
So I think it's about striking the right balance, isn't it? And I think for all the reasons I've talked about, to offer that security in employment and the benefits that gives to small and large businesses, that's what's been a really difficult time.
Okay, we'll come back to it. So the next question is from Martin Thompson of Target Components. When will the new growth support schemes be released for April 2026? Having engaged with Wakefield first, so that's our economic growth team in the council, some of the schemes that have been running for the last 2 years have been paused or removed and are awaiting new schemes to be announced ahead of next year. As a business focused on growth, I'm keen to plan for the next 24 to 36 months, and an understanding of what schemes are being released will help with our decision-making processes. There seems to be kind of a lull at the moment, doesn't there, with funding? So when can we expect to hear things?
I've been through, obviously there's the initial budget, and then there's been a comprehensive spending review, which we looked at every single line of expenditure to make sure that your money, your members' money, my constituents' money is being used in the best possible way. Look, I'm not directly involved in the nitty-gritty of individual schemes, so I can't speak too much on specifics, but what I can I'll try and give you a bit of a flavour of what's happening. I think the good news is the government's managed to keep some really important programmes going. So growth hubs, as we talked about a little bit earlier on, they've also put that £250 million into that British Business Bank to help small businesses in 2025, 2026. So there's still a strong focus on helping businesses grow. I think one of the big ones would be the Growth Guarantee Scheme. It's all about making it easier for for smaller businesses to get the finance that they need to invest and to expand. So between, I think it was June 2024 up to March 2026, we expect something like 11,000 businesses to be helped by that. And it can support businesses with loans up to £2 million. And the government backs 70% of that, which gives lenders more confidence to say yes, because I'm sure your members all have that problem. We want to grow, we want to expand, but we're having difficulty getting that capital, that money to allow them to do that. So the government's stepping in there.
So they act as a guarantor in effect.
Yeah, for 70% of that, which makes it much more likely, I think, for lenders to say, okay, well, we can bridge that gap for business. Back in April, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, also announced a further £500 million to top up that fund. Again, helping those businesses who are feeling the pinch from what's been global tariff changes as well, to help give them a little bit more of a cash flow cushion.
Yeah. I mean, we're in very volatile times at the moment, aren't we? So it's really difficult to predict on a global scale how it's going to affect our economy, isn't it?
Yeah, but what you would have seen, numerous trade deals already taking place, including the US. So I think we're making extremely good progress as a country on those trade deals in order to get that growth.
Let's hope that people can kind of have a renewed confidence from it. It's just, like I said, very volatile at the moment, and I think that is having a knock-on effect on confidence within even small businesses here.
Why I think it's so important that things like allowing businesses to get those loans to grow and expand gives them that confidence to know we can do that actually. We can aim high, we can continue to grow our business, and the government's got our back in order to do that, despite these difficult climates that we've just been discussing.
Yeah.
Join us for the West Yorkshire Conference on 9th of July at Pontefract Racecourse. Head over to wearewakefield.org.uk/events for more information.
Okay, so next question is from Sylvie Gianglini from Hayco Machines, a global organisation that are part of We Are Wakefield, and Sylvie's the managing director of the UK. Her question is, Labour has pledged to support working people, but it could be argued that Labour's tax plans could hurt small businesses like many in Wakefield who are part of We Are Wakefield. How do you balance fairness with economic growth, and what do you think is the right balance?
Look, as I mentioned earlier, I think since taking office last year, we've been rewriting the rules when it comes to work. I think making things better. And I think we are making things better for both businesses and workers. The Employment Rights Bill, put my teeth back in there. I think is going to be really helpful, as we mentioned, in terms of ensuring we are able to attract great staff, retain staff. So again, they feel some security there in order to keep small and medium enterprises teams running there. Less turnover obviously means less training, means less and less headaches, if you like. So we're building a stronger partnership, as again I mentioned, with trade unions, with government, with business. And look, I think there's proof that it's working. We've managed to boost workers' rights. We've managed to raise the living wage, and we're still the fastest growing economy in the G7.
But that's very employee heavy again. I mean, we seem to be in a climate where the tables have turned, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing that candidates have the power when looking for a great job, a great career. But it's as if now the candidate's interviewing the business rather than the other way around. And it's a very transient thing where people are looking for change, where it used to be tradition where it was great if you had the same job for 10 years on your CV. It's not frowned upon now for employees to have
but do you
multiple jobs in the last 5 years.
I would argue in some cases that's about people feeling insecure, about wanting to make sure they get the wages that they deserve, that they're not just going to be laid off. And I think adding that reassurance to workers, I think you're more likely to retain that talent.
It's a different way of looking at it to how the businesses are looking at it. I've got to say, I don't think the businesses feel that way at all. And I wouldn't be doing my members justice if I sat here and just nodded at what you're saying there.
No, and I don't want you to, and you never have. I wouldn't expect you to. You've always been a really great advocate for small businesses. What I would extend the invitation to any of your members. I'm always happy to have these conversations. I'm always happy for them to send me emails with their concerns. My job for Wakefield and Rothwell constituency is to represent my constituents. That includes businesses, obviously, people-led. And so where they do have concerns, I can make representations. I can, as your MP, I can speak to Johnny, the business secretary, and the other ministers to try and get clarity where people are feeling a little bit, well, how's this going to work? This feels a little bit difficult. It could, we feel this is wrong. Then send that to me. Give me the opportunity then to make sure I get that information. Because, if you don't tell me, I can't make those representations.
Oh, absolutely. And
I know you don't hold back, Claire. No, I really welcome that as a voice.
For me, I haven't spoken to one business that feels that this is in their favour, the Employee Rights Bill. Not one. It's not promoting growth in their minds. It's actually putting constraints on a business that they're actually more reluctant to take people on because they're aware that there are problem employees and now their rights have been taken away to deal with that. And the worst thing in a business, the most problems that you get in a business come from people. That's a fact. That's a fact. So I've not spoken to one business that feels that that's helping them in any way.
On the flip side, I'd say that people are the greatest asset for each and every business.
They absolutely can be. So I'm not.
There's a flip side to every element there. I hear some of the concerns about if any of your members would like any clarity on any points. The offer is always there for Wakefield and Rothwell.
We have got a roundtable event coming up with you, a face-to-face event, so people have got the opportunity. We don't want those keyboard warriors, those, to sit there or just complaining from your armchair or from your desk at home. Come and speak to you.
Absolutely. Please do. It helps me do my job, frankly.
Absolutely.
Look, I want there to be economic growth. I want our businesses in Wakefield to do better. That grows the economy. That means you can spend more on public services. And so it's please do reach out. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. And I think they do need to do that. I mean, it's how we're in numbers, isn't it, as well? If more people speak out about how it's making them feel within their business, then obviously we've got more chance of being heard about that. Because you're not going to get everything right.
No, of course not. No government will get everything right. And I think having those real examples of where it feels that it's not helping, and be able to feed that in and be able to then come back with, well, this was the intention. And often correcting some misunderstandings as well. It's my job as well in order to tell people, well, actually, do you know what? Because the rumour mill is alive and well as well, and with social media and things like that as well.
That's what about the keyboard warriors.
Of course, and I get that. I mean, lots of people now get all their news from social media. I'm not saying all your members do that at all, but often that happens, and so it's incumbent on me and then the government to make sure we're effectively communicating as well, both the intention and the facts regarding the things that we're putting in place.
And I mean, even on TV, things get sensationalised out there. So you can be sitting there watching the news, and they'll have picked up on one element of something, sensationalise it, and that can rock confidence in itself. So
there could be 99 amazing points to a bill, and that one will be the one that's kind of picked up sometimes. And I'm not saying that one isn't important. It's trying to get that balance between the pros and cons of what we're doing.
But again, being able to access you to maybe clarify matters or explain things.
I've got a fantastic team on Westland Street. They're there, Monday to Friday. You can always reach out, and they're a fantastic team. You've worked with them, Claire, as well.
I have. They are
fantastic team, and we do our best to get back to people as quickly as possible. And what I will say is, look, each and every piece of correspondence is read. It's always considered. And we always make that effort to feed that into government. I'm your conduit. Just don't feel helpless that these things are being done to you.
Yeah.
You do have a voice. You've got We Are Wakefield, who represents as well. And you guys feed into me, and business can feed directly into me, and I can feed that into the centre.
Yeah. And you are accessible, which is the key thing, isn't it? Some people
you can't miss my office. It has a massive 6-foot head on the side.
Yes,
very red.
It's very red, and it's very you.
Really accentuates my rather large forehead.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about my face being on a building like that.
As you can imagine, it's had a fair few additional tweaks made to it over the last 3 years.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll have to talk about that at some point as well. Maybe after the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question from Sylvie. What specific initiatives have been put in place to support communities like ours in Wakefield? Can you share your top 3?
Ooh, top 3. That's you're asking the politician to limit their comments to 3. I mean,
just try.
So I'd say, look, more police on the beat.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might have noticed in this town centre recently that you're seeing more police officers. You're not imagining it. The number of officers in the city centre has actually doubled over the past couple of weeks, and I think that's already starting to make the area feel safer and more secure. And that's part of the government's commitment for those 13,000 neighbourhood police officers and community safety officers there. So we're already seeing the difference that's making in Wakefield. I heard loud and clear from businesses about instances of antisocial behaviour and drug taking as well.
Yeah.
So we're taking action on that. We're delivering on that promise that we made on a manifesto about getting more police on the beat. Having that named neighbourhood police officers as well. So we've already hit the ground running on that. So I think more police on the beat, that visible deterrent and reassurance for shops is going to be really important.
That absolutely it is key, because there's no point in developing the city centre. There's no point in trying to encourage more people in. There's no point in improving the transport links if you're not going to feel safe when you get off that bus or when you're walking through the city centre streets. That's absolutely key to everything, isn't it? And there absolutely has been a problem in the city centre.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I have a personal experience of that when my daughter sings.
Right.
Student, so she was busking in Wakefield once, and she was being bothered by someone who obviously been taking drugs, antisocial behaviour. They were bothering her, and it was actually Danny from Wakefield Bid that saw this happening, stepped in and helped my daughter.
Yeah.
So it's occasions like that where we want our young people, we want our elderly,
absolutely,
we want everyone to feel safe walking through Wakefield and being part of the atmosphere in the city centre.
And frankly, as well as the people coming in to use all those businesses and services, we want the workers, the shop workers, to feel safe and secure as well. They shouldn't be feeling unsafe. But I think, look, there's some great partnership work, and we have some fantastic officers in Wakefield City Centre. But for too long, they've been under-resourced and really stretched. So it was almost like whack-a-mole to a degree, where something kicking off in one area of the Wakefield district, all the officers going over to that.
Yeah.
That just kind of went around. So I think for the first time in a long time, you're getting that 7-day-a-week police service in Wakefield again. And I think we're going to see...
Can you give us some sort of idea then what the increase has been? So
in police officers, it's doubled.
Right.
It's literally doubled.
And is that enough?
Well, we're going to continue to work on that, obviously. It's the beginning. It's the beginning. And obviously, I want to see more visible policing across the constituency. This is just the beginning. Obviously, there was a particular problem with Wakefield City Centre. And these aren't even brand new trained police officers. These are experienced police officers who have come in order to try and turn the tide on what has been perceived as a real increase in antisocial behaviour. Again, I want people to come to the city centre. I want them to enjoy Wakefield City Centre, to go and spend their money in our shop and businesses.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my first one.
That was your first one. We've got another 2 to go.
So I think backing our local shops. Again, going on the retail businesses, we're scrapping, finally, I would say overdue, the £200 threshold when it comes to shoplifting. So now every case will be taken seriously. That wasn't the case previously. So we've removed that threshold. And also, going on the back of what I said about retail workers wanting to feel safe, we're also introducing a new offence specifically on assaulting retail workers, which I know will be a huge relief for shop workers who just want to feel safe at work. So that's 2. Third one, I think it's keeping those shops, helping them feel safe, I think. So I've heard from lots of businesses, especially in the city centre, how helpful the shop security grant scheme has been. When I first became the MP for Wakefield, we had particular problems, I don't know if you remember, in Northgate.
Yes, and Wood Street.
They were particularly struggling with vandalism, and I think that scheme's made a real difference.
That's good.
And helping those shops boost their security and stay open with confidence.
Yeah.
And we've had some good partnership working in there and again with those. So thanks to those businesses. They reached out, again, coming back to reaching out.
Yeah.
We held some meetings there. So the council working in partnership with the MP, working in partnership with the police, I think we've really managed to change the tide. I'm going to bring in one more. I'm a politician, so I'm going to go for 4. So I want to look, too many shops in the city centre and city centres across the country are empty.
Yes, that empty retail space. Something like 25% across the UK is empty.
So I'm pretty excited about a new initiative, the high street rental auctions.
Okay, I've not heard of this.
Yeah, so that started last December, and it basically lets councils bring long empty shops back into use. And also with the English devolution bill, communities will soon be able to buy back valued local spaces like pubs, like shops and community centres, which I think will really help revive. And obviously there's also a lot of investment happening in the city centre as well. So I think there's lots of initiatives to make it feel safe, investing in our town centre there to make it a more attractive place.
When you say communities can buy back these spaces, how does that work?
So obviously it's going through the English devolution bill now. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make sure I send you more information you can get out to your members.
Yeah,
so I know all this, and I'll make sure we keep doing that because I think it's important that we're sending it to your members to know what actions we are taking.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, again, we're the conduit for you as well, so we're grateful to pass any information on.
So everybody watch their emails for more information.
Yeah, watch their emails. I will pop it in the newsletter. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we are now on a question from Claire Thornton of Thornton Jones Solicitors. I think they have 4 or 5 offices now. One of them is on Burton Street, right in the middle of the city there. And I'm sure that's the building she's talking about. So we have a beautiful grade 2 listed building with a flat roof. We would love to install solar panels. There is a clear tension between the need to preserve old buildings and the need to protect the environment. What could be done to address the dichotomy, to free up the planning process? This is a real issue for anyone who resides or trades from listed buildings. They can't make them more sustainable.
I mean, look, one thing I've come to appreciate in my ministerial role is just how much net zero goals touch everything. And it's not just about big national targets. It's about helping businesses go green in a way that works for them. Obviously,
save money.
Exactly.
Utilities, again, we touched on that earlier. With it, it's a massive challenge. The increase in the cost of utilities for businesses, and this again is something that's a barrier.
So helping you to decarbonise and make it cheaper for businesses, especially SMEs and those energy intensive. So rooftop solar is going to be a big part of that, of course, and new building standards will be coming in to make sure that commercial buildings are ready for that greener future, if you like. So the upcoming solar roadmap, we always have these titles, will offer more support to get panels on rooftops, both old and new buildings. Look, you mentioned it a second ago. We also know that the planning system needs fixing.
Absolutely.
Be really frank about that. You would have heard that from the Prime Minister, heard that from the Deputy Prime Minister, and that's why the government has updated the National Planning Policy Framework to support growth and energy efficiency. Now, as for listed buildings, there aren't any specific solar rules for them as yet, but councils are being asked to weigh up the value of the property and justify any harm when it comes to listed buildings. But I'll take that back as well.
Maybe we need more information on that.
So we'll get you some more information. We'll see what else is being done when it comes to listed buildings, because we have some fantastic buildings in Wakefield. But
absolutely, but how are we ever going to
businesses inside to make sure that that's sustainable for the long term?
Yeah, absolutely. And how are we going to meet those net zero targets without addressing this? Because we do have a lot of historical buildings, don't we?
And we've been really ambitious as a government. We want to be a clean energy superpower. We want to ensure that we are more self-sustainable when it comes to our energy needs. That's why we're stepping in with that extra support for energy-intensive businesses, and that's why we're pushing ahead with the solar panel stuff as well. But let me come back on the listed building bit specifically, and we can get back to the member question.
Yeah, we will. We'll get that back to Claire. Okay, so next question is from Louise Turner of Wordsmiths Unlimited and my Wakefield Business Awards wife, coincidentally. So co-founder of the Wakefield Business Awards with myself. Another really contentious issue here. So late payments. Yeah. Late payments and long payment terms imposed by large clients are real issues for SME cash flow.
Yeah.
What is the government doing to support SMEs on this critical issue? Action so far has been far too voluntary, so large companies with no intention of paying within 30 days can continue to do so, and to impose long payment terms of sometimes up to 90 days, and I've experienced much longer than that.
Okay.
Would the government consider mandating that large companies over a certain turnover must pay SMEs within 30 days? Now, wouldn't that be great?
Look, I think late payments are such a pain. More than that.
They're not just a pain, they can be
make or break. It can be make or break. Yeah, exactly.
They really can.
I hear it all the time, and I know you've raised it with me numerous times. It's one of those issues that keeps cropping up, and it's holding businesses back. The good news is the government is taking this really seriously. We've heard that. So back in December, we launched the new Fair Payment Code. And now big companies have to include their payment stats in their annual reports. So there's no more hiding.
But what are the consequences?
Well, let's come back to that. So there's no hiding slow payments behind the schemes. They're also encouraging businesses to switch to e-invoicing again, because I think that makes it speed things up. And it cuts out that faff of paperwork. Which
I think most of us do now. I mean, there's not many businesses that are not on some sort of system. I mean, Xero, it's been much more streamlined and simplified.
I think you'd be surprised how, especially some of the bigger businesses still can rely on some of the paper systems, and that kind of can mask sometimes and make the whole process so much slower and like I said, so much more of a faff. No, in October as well, any company, October this year, any company that wants to bid for a government contract over 5 million a year, they'll need to show that they pay their suppliers within an average of 45 days. It's not 30 days, it's 45 days, or they're out.
Right.
Okay, so we're leading the way there. And I think that's a huge step forward.
How are they asked to demonstrate that though, Simon? How do they prove that they're doing it or not doing it?
So for the government contracts, I mean, we'll be monitoring that. Obviously, if they're not doing it within 45 days to small businesses, then they're out, frankly. Okay. And so I think that's just using our buying power, if you like, in order to set that kind of example for big businesses as well. I think having it more transparent as well, you guys will know from those annual reports whether that big company that you're working with isn't going to deliver payments in a timely way. And I think that'll be useful then in making decisions as SMEs as well.
But it's again putting more work on those SMEs to have to do that due diligence, isn't it? Which
I suspect a lot of your small business will be doing that anyway. You'll be doing a bit of due diligence before getting into big contracts, especially business critical contracts. But I think the important thing is we're giving you the information to make those informed decisions. Look, if you know that company's taking 120 days to pay an invoice, I think you'll be a little bit more cautious, perhaps. And perhaps when it comes to negotiations with that company, we say, well, hold on a minute. As part of this, we want assurances, as part of whatever contract you agree that you're going to be paying within a certain amount of time. So I think giving you the information to arm you with that, I think is going to be a really important step forward.
It's a step forward, and it's definitely progress. It just doesn't feel that it's enough. The consequences
So I think it's a package there. There's a package there, and I think again the government leading the way in terms of its interactions on contracts over £5 million. I think, and making sure that happens within 45 days. I think that's important that we lead by example, and I think that's exactly what we do.
I mean, I think SMEs feel some quite low on the food chain sometimes, you know, and we get missed, and the support needs to be there because it's these SMEs that are going to provide that growth, you know, that you're talking about every day. We need that support.
Absolutely.
Okay, so next question. It's a long one. I think this is the last one, actually. Okay, so we will...
Oh, it is a long one.
So this is, it's from the construction industry, actually. So it's Phil Burgess of Wordsworth Construction. So I don't know whether to go through all this in one. I'll read the question out, and then we can maybe section it off. So there's a review of public procurement at the moment. There's been lots of talk about making public sector contracts more accessible to SMEs.
What's the company again? Sorry, was it?
It's Wordsworth Construction, based at Nostell. My neighbours actually at Nostell Estate. So a review of public procurement at the moment. There's been lots of talk about making public sector contracts more accessible to SMEs. But the reality is there are still lots of barriers, not least the time and energy needed to make a submission. We're looking at small teams here, you know, but what is Simon's view about how quality can be maintained but contracts made more accessible to SMEs? So we'll take that bit first, I think.
Well, look, let's be honest. I think government procurement has been a bit of a nightmare for small businesses. It's been slow, it's been confusing, and well, frankly, full of red tape. I think that's what he's described it perfectly. But I think things are starting to change. I think the national procurement policy statement is, I think, setting a really clear sense of direction. Public bodies should be spending more with SMEs. There's a commitment there, and that builds on the Procurement Act, which is all about making the system fairer and more accessible. So already 2 pieces of concrete action now. Of course, that'll take a bit of time to ramp up and get into place. But I think here's a big change. So in April this year, central government departments will have to set 3-year targets of how much they will spend directly with small businesses.
Right.
So I think that's, again, something like central government can do. So they'll have to set those 3-year targets, and they'll need to publish the progress every year. Again, transparency, you can see that they are doing that, and if they're not, we can be held to account for that. I think that's more transparency, more accountability. Plus, we're already, consulting on even more reforms as well to make the whole process quicker, simpler, and better at supporting the innovation that SMEs are so amazing at in order for them to grow.
Okay. So the next part of the question. So could you comment on delays being caused to new residential projects that fall into a high risk category under the Building Safety Act, due to the Health and Safety Executive being unable to process approval for site works to commence through the new Gateway 2 and 3 process? This comes at a time when the government has an express target of 1.5 million new homes in 5 years. And he quotes from an article in Construction Enquirer. So billions of pounds worth of desperately needed new homes are being delayed by the building safety regulator, displaying a classic case of good intentions but bad execution. The housing sector runs the risk of heaping unexpected costs on developments that are beyond the team's expectations and asking funders and banks to carry the financial risk. There is already talk of lenders moving to lower risk markets. A quote from the same article: banks are now shying away from the sector, put off by the regulatory shambles. So then Phil comments that the government must think again about the whole approval process, or a vital sector of the industry could come to a complete standstill. The construction industry is not looking to cut corners on safety, but for the government to match the speed with the necessary resource to process schemes safely to site.
So obviously, as a constituency MP, I'm not completely over all of that, but I think, look, I agree. Look, processing times just aren't good enough, and I know how frustrating it is for people in the sector. It's something I've heard quite a lot about. Look, since coming into government, ministers have been working very closely with the building safety regulator to try and speed things up, because we heard how slow it can be. And they funded an additional 30 more frontline staff within BSR. They've also kicked off a recruitment drive for more building inspectors, again, all designed to try and improve, get that extra capacity. So I hope you'll start and see a real difference then in the coming months. And that will improve then, we'll build on those improvements in the months ahead.
So if Phil needs to clarify any more of that
brilliant
question,
yeah,
he needs
to drop me an email. And
yeah,
we can
I
get
think he'd actually come into the roundtable event, so you can discuss that further at that point, because it's quite an in-depth one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, it's all about the impact on the SMEs, isn't it? And allowing SMEs to have that access to contracts and those barriers being taken away.
Exactly. And I think you're seeing a sustained effort from the government to do just that. As I said, it does take time, and I understand there's time critical natures here.
Yeah.
But I think we are starting to turn the corner. You are starting to see differences there. And as a constituency MP, that I could be asked a question about anything and everything. So I'm not the expert here. You guys are. So I benefit from the voice of small business, from you as We Are Wakefield, and from those businesses feeding back to me. So I can, hold ministers to account and tell them how it really feels on the coal face.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not the expert. You guys are. Help me help you by sharing your experiences, your frustrations, your concerns. Allow me to get you the answers and the reassurance that you need.
Thank you. So thank you so much for answering our members' questions today.
A pleasure.
Thank you for giving us your time. I'm sure this won't be the last conversation we have about any of this. And we'll see you on the 18th of July for the roundtable session.
Wait, hope everyone's got their tickets.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to the We Are Wakefield podcast in partnership with Podmatic. Hope you can join us for the West Yorkshire Conference on 9th of July at Pontefract Racecourse.